Hello, my name is Thomas Schneider, and I'm a medical student working with Wisconsin Voices for Recovery to bring you a Saturday night chat. Saturday Night Chat is a monthly chat that creates a space for people to share their recovery journey and to show people in and seeking recovery that they are not alone and that recovery is possible. Today, we will be hearing from Carianne. So, Carianne, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. My name is Carianne. I am a person in recovery. I've been in recovery since 1999. I currently have 5 years of sobriety, and I'm also a recovery coach.
All right. Well, thank you for introducing yourself, Carianne. I think the first question that we'll start off with is what did substance abuse look like for you?
Jails, homelessness, unhealthy habits, just feel lost feelings, didn't know who I really was. Always felt like guilty and shameful.
That sounds very tough, a tough experience to kind of have to go through. So what led you to seek recovery?
Um, I had a brief encounter with law enforcement. I was incarcerated on and off for like 5 years in the early 2000s. Then I, sobered up for some years, and then I had a relapse and I went to jail again. And I said that was enough for me. So I had to learn um, the consequences to my actions. And I had to grow up. I had to realize that I was older. I had to start being responsible. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I had to take accountability for some of the choices that I made in my past. And I had a substance abuse counselor help me through my first year. That was like part of my accountability, which was part of like a driver safety plan because I had like a DUI. And she really helped me, stay on track. And then I also had a goal of the area that I live in, because there aren't too many like sober living houses or treatment centers in the area that I live. So I reached out to 𝗬𝗎𝗂𝗧 and was connected with like a steering committee, and I was connected with a bunch of organizations that also helped me to grow and maintain my sobriety. So
Well, perfect. And you kind of stepped into the next question, which was kind of asking about what your recovery journey looked like. But before we kind of go into that, you mentioned 𝗬𝗎𝗂𝗧, and
yeah.
that's an organization that I'm not quite familiar with. So would you mind just kind of giving us a little blurb about what that is?
𝗬𝗎𝗂𝗧, uh, they help um, in the Shawano area, they have a short-term housing stay for people that are homeless or like coming back into the community for whatever reason. They also, I think they have, I know like they help me work on my credit, building my credit. They have a bunch of programs. I think, trying to remember off the top of my head, they have a lot. They have like a community health clinic, which is free. They're just like a really good resource to have. So it's the best way
Perfect.
I can say it right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's quite all right. And so you kind of, as I said before, you kind of mentioned what your recovery journey, what kind of some of the steps that took place. But from what you've mentioned before, it seems that it was a long journey. And so do you mind just kind of telling us what that journey, what was kind of included in that journey?
Oh, well, for the first 5 years from like 1999 to 2004, I was in and out of jail, experienced homelessness, couldn't quite decide, hey, um, was recovery for me? I was just kind of caught up with a bunch of people that I probably shouldn't been around. And finally, after inpatient, I was like a residential inpatient. 2001, I finished that. I completed probation. Then after a short relapse, got in trouble again with the law, was incarcerated for a short period of time. And then once again after that, and when the judge told me, look, you're facing prison time, this is getting serious. So I think it's time that you start staying connected with people that are going to help you recover. And I did for quite some time. I was, always doing outpatient or IOP. And then the last time I had a relapse in 2016, it was for like a full year. And it was like the worst my addiction had ever gotten out of control. And I was like, this is enough. So I was incarcerated for a short period of time. I got out. I basically had to follow the rules. I had to get my life together, and I made a choice and I stuck with it. And I'm glad I did, because I wouldn't change my life anything for what it is today. I have a beautiful 4-year-old daughter. I have older children, but my baby, she's also helped me become the mother and responsible person that I am today. Because I learned from like my past mistakes with my older children, not believing in myself, and just doubting myself, really, like I couldn't do it. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, it's so easy, you know. So that's kind of what helped me. And staying connected with like a lot of the organizations that work with me, and knowing that like the area that I live in, they are having they're opening up sober living houses. They have like a recovery resource center. I never knew about these things because when I was using, it wasn't in the area that I live, and it was in another area of Wisconsin. So when I moved out of Milwaukee and I moved north, I told myself I'm not going back to using at all. So, and I stuck with it. I had to get my driver's license back. I had to do the driver's safety plan, the SR22, the interlock. So I had to go through all that, and that kind of like kept me in check to what I needed to do to maintain sobriety. Without some of that, I don't know where I would be. Well, actually, I know where I would be. I just wouldn't have had to pay all that money out, and because I made a conscious decision to stay sober, because I knew it just wasn't for me anymore. I just wanted to move on and let go of the things that I couldn't change in my past and change who I was today at that time in my life.
Yeah. No, that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. And it sounds like you're still involved. I mean, you mentioned that you're still involved with these organizations that have helped you. Do you mind telling us kind of what your role is with those organizations?
Well, I'm a recovery coach. I was like, I just someone to connect people that are seeking recovery or curious about recovery. I'm like the person that connects them to get the support that they're looking for.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And kind of off of this, one of the things that you had mentioned to me earlier that you are particularly passionate about is harm reduction. I guess this is just your opportunity. I'll let you kind of talk about everything that you want to talk about in regards to harm reduction.
Okay. All right. I think of harm reduction as an evidence-based approach that is critical to engaging with people who use drugs and equipping them with life-saving tools and information to create positive changes in their lives and potentially save their lives. Excuse me. It is also a key pillar in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services overdose prevention strategy. Harm reduction is a practical and transformative approach that incorporates community-driven public health strategies, including prevention, risk reduction, and health promotion to empower people who use drugs and their families with the choice to live healthy, self-directed, and purpose-filled lives. Harm reduction centers lived and living experience of people, those in underserved communities, and these strategies and practices that flow from them. Harm reduction emphasizes engagingly directly with people who use drugs to prevent overdoses and infectious disease transmission, improve physical, mental, and social well-being, and offer low barrier options for assessing healthcare services and including substance use and mental health disorder treatment. Harm reduction is an important part of the Biden-Harris administration comprehensive approach to addressing substance use disorder through preventing treatment and recovery and empowering people to reach their own goals through incremental change. Organizations who practice harm reduction incorporate a spectrum of strategies that meet where they are on their own terms and may serve as a pathway to additional health and social services, including additional prevention, treatment, and recovery services. Harm reduction work by addressing broader health and social issues through improved policies, programs, and practices.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I can tell that this is a very important area for you. And through that, you kind of mentioned different ways to prevent substance use. And do you have kind of what techniques are you looking for kind of teaching people?
So like some solutions I would say would be love and affection as the person grows. Consistent and fair discipline, open channels to communication for thoughts and feelings, opportunities for successful experience at home and in school, a stable family atmosphere, family time together, family rituals. A harm reduction approach would be focused on kindness, compassion, and respect for people using psychoactive substances.
Yeah. And so you kind of mentioned like this kindness towards people who are using psychoactive substances. And unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of kind of stigma or judgment towards people who are using any substances at all. And so I'd like to ask you if you've ever felt stigmatized or judged because you were suffering with a substance use disorder.
Yes, in the past I have.
Okay. Would you be able to give us an example of that and maybe tell us like ways that we can kind of prevent that judgment?
Well, looking back years ago, it was like services weren't available and, or treatment wasn't available, or they didn't know at that time. Those were some of the answers that I had that I felt like I was being judged. There just wasn't like enough resources at that time. This is a very long time ago. So that was some of the things that I went through, or not getting real answers or clear answers to some of the things that I was going through at the time. So that's the best way I could answer that.
Okay. And so you feel, and is it, so I guess based off of that, I would say it seems as though kind of as a collective whole, society has gotten a little bit better in terms of at least having the resources available. Does that sound correct to you?
A little bit. I think some of it, like you said before, how people use substances and psychoactive drugs were kind of looked at. Instead of constantly throwing people in jail as a solution to the problem doesn't always work. I think that we should have more recovery houses, more inpatient residential, sober living houses as like the solution or alternative to throwing someone in jail, you know? That's how I feel about that.
Yeah. So
And
it's gotten,
having a better understanding of like of someone who is on MAT, there's a stigma where, um, well, there it's just another way for a person to use or get high. I feel like that's another stigma too in society. So,
okay. So a step in the correct direction, but still a lot of steps to be taken in the future. Um, okay. And then one of the other things that you had talked about before was kind of a trauma-informed approach towards
mhm.
substance use. And would you like to kind of speak more into what that is?
Yes. What are trauma-informed approaches? Working in a trauma-informed way does not necessarily require disclosure of trauma. Rather, services are provided in ways that recognize needs for physical and emotional safety, as well as choice and control and decision affecting one's treatment.
Wonderful. Thank you for explaining that to us. And then I know another thing that we had talked about previously was kind of what about Narcan and what that is. And I know you have kind of something about that as well.
Yes. Narcan is the brand name for FDA approved drug naloxone. It is used for the treatment of life-threatening opioid overdose or suspected opioid overdose. Naloxone is an opioid antagonist. This means that it works with binding with opioid receptors to rapidly reverse the effects of opioid overdose. However, naloxone does not prevent deaths caused by other drugs such as benzodiazepine, Xanax, clozapine, and Valium, bath salts, cocaine, methamphetamine, or alcohol.
All right. Well, thank you. Is there anything else that you would kind of like to talk about during this? Otherwise, I am going to put you on the spot with one last question.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So it's this I hope this isn't too difficult of a question. However, given that this is the Saturday night chat for people who are going into or interested in recovery, I just want to hear any thoughts that you have to those who are watching this video in that situation.
Can you repeat the question
Anything?
again?
Yeah, just anything that you would like to tell someone who is potentially interested in going into recovery or is going through the process themselves. Anything that you think that they would like to hear at this moment.
Recovery is beautiful, and believe in yourself. When in self-doubt, reach out for help.
Wonderful. Well, I don't think I can close it in any better way than that. Um, so I appreciate you, Carianne, taking the time to do this interview with me. Um, and I think we can call it time there. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity, Thomas.
Yes, thank you. Me as well.